Young, bringing you the latest news along with global insights from experts around the world on issues making headlines. We start with news. We start with the latest on the coronavirus outbreak gripping South Korea. The number of COVID-19 deaths in the nation continues to mount, along with the number of confirmed patients. We connect now with our Kim Bo-kyung, who is standing by on the line to see if there were any updates overnight. Bo-kyung, what's the latest?
Hi, Soo-young. 2 more patients are known to have died overnight due to the coronavirus, bringing the total death toll in South Korea to 28. As of 11 p.m. Korea time on Monday, 2 more patients died, bringing the number of people who died in a single day in Daegu alone to 6. The most recent deaths were women in their late 70s who tested positive after they died. They're known to have had pre-existing illnesses. Meanwhile, the number of confirmed patients in South Korea stands at 4,335, according to Central Disease Control Headquarters. This is a jump of nearly 600 cases compared to Sunday and an extra 123 compared to Monday morning. The locations of the newly confirmed cases on Monday afternoon are as yet unknown, but most of the patients were concentrated in Daegu with more than 3,000 cases and Gyeongsang-buk-do province with more than 600. According to health authorities, to make sure all confirmed patients get the necessary treatment, the government is to hospitalize those with serious symptoms first and put them into our medically sealed medical centers. Those with mild symptoms will be taken care of in separate designated living facilities. As most of the patients are in Daegu right now, the National Education Training Institute located in Daegu was the first such facility to be used from Monday.
Right, and we're continuing to see the numbers grow and grow here in South Korea. It's all very concerning. And it's no surprise that more and more countries are restricting entry to people traveling from South Korea. Do update us on the latest numbers.
Sure, Soo-young. According to South Korea's Foreign Ministry, as of 10 p.m. local time on Monday, 83 countries or regions within countries have either banned people coming in from South Korea or enhanced their entry procedures in light of the severity of the coronavirus outbreak here. 36 countries have imposed a blanket entry ban, with Turkey joining the group on Sunday. Including China's 14 provinces, 47 countries and regions have strengthened their entrance screening procedures. Sakhalin in Russia is requiring travelers from South Korea, Japan, and China self-quarantine for 14 days, even if they don't show any symptoms. New Zealand has also strengthened its screening by introducing self-quarantine measures for foreigners coming in from South Korea or northern Italy. Meanwhile, according to a source in the U.S. government, the U.S. Department of Defense has reportedly dispatched a 60-member of medical team to South Korea to test U.S. forces in Korea for the virus. They are also known to be using samples of the virus to work on a vaccine. That's all from me for now. Back to you.
Meanwhile, the pace of the new COVID-19 infections continues to surge in Italy. The death toll rose by 18 to 52 as of Monday local time, the highest in Europe. According to Italian health authorities, the number of confirmed cases in the country has now exceeded 2,000, and so far around 150 people have recovered. The number of patients has also risen sharply in Germany to 150 infections as of Monday morning local time. The cases were reported in 10 of Germany's 16 federal states. Local health authorities there explained that the majority of the patients are linked to a large-scale carnival event held last week. Over in the US, the coronavirus has killed 4 more people in the state of Washington, bringing the region's death toll to 6. The South Korean government, meanwhile, has lodged official complaints to countries that have banned entry of flights and travelers from South Korea. Transport Minister Kim Yeon-mi reportedly sent a letter of complaint to Vietnam for redirecting Asiana Airlines flight to land at a remote airstrip last Saturday. The plane was forced to return to South Korea. The minister reportedly sent a letter to US authorities as well to ensure flights leaving South Korea for US destinations are not restricted from landing or entry. She assured them that all US-bound passengers undergo strict examinations on board and at the airport to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. On Monday, North Korea launched 2 short-range projectiles off its east coast. It was the regime's first weapons test of the year and a return to its provocative stance after 3 months of relative calm. Why now is the question as countries around the world grapple with the spread of the novel coronavirus. To help us break down this issue, we have Dr. Mark P. Barry, independent analyst in New York, who has been following North Korea issues for the past 3 decades. We also have joining us Dr. Raymond Pacheco-Pardo, reader in international relations at King's College London. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, Dr. Barry, let's start with you. With your reaction, you've always had a niggling feeling about these tests. Did the timing of this test in particular surprise you?
Well, we've been wondering why they've been so quiet for the last couple of months. But I may take a somewhat unpopular view, which is that the reason for these tests always relate to what's going on internally in North Korea. And we have to see it in terms of the shakeup of some senior personnel, the replacing of the foreign minister in late December, and then just a few days ago, the scolding and I believe replacement of the head of the organization and guidance department. So if you're Kim Jong-un, you're concerned about internal alignment and discipline, first and foremost. And the military exercises fall into that guideline first and foremost. But observing the media, Kim Jong-un surely senses that the world thinks, oh, North Korea must be totally encumbered and overwhelmed with coronavirus concerns. And although all his generals were wearing masks in the pictures that were released yesterday, the reality is that he probably was trying to show to the world and to the president as well that we're here and we're going to be continuing our testing, especially since you Americans have announced a postponement of your joint military exercises, which are normally scheduled for March.
Right, so as usual, you think that is a form of messaging. Well, what about you, Dr. Pacheco-Pardo? Do you agree with this view? Did this test take you by surprise?
Well, I think that there is a domestic component, as was just mentioned. We should also remember that when spring comes, North Korea normally increases the number of tests. So as the weather gets better, North Korea will continue to carry on more tests. I think there's another component this time around, which is this is 1 year removed from the unsuccessful Hanoi summit. And over the weekend, we already saw military drills, even as South Korea and the US announced that they were going to cancel or postpone at the very least their own military drills. So I think there's also this component reminding the US that 1 year after the Hanoi summit, North Korea is still here. So unless there's diplomacy at some point over the next few months, North Korea will continue with the tests.
Right, yes, the timing of this test is quite interesting because, as you mentioned right now, it does come a little after a year after the Hanoi summit broke down between Kim Jong-un and President Donald Trump. And as usual, this firing does seem to be a cry for attention. So, Dr. Barry, what do you think North Korea wants this time around?
Always the seeking of attention is to engage the United States in a way that it can balance, in my view, the enormous pressure from China. Because in the long run, the DPRK, the more it relies on China, the more it risks a progressive loss of economic and political sovereignty. So the United States is extremely important and always has been, but especially in this age of President Xi Jinping and the emergence of a very strong Chinese hegemonic power in the region. Because President Trump has met with Kim Jong-un 3 times, and perhaps no one else, if elected in November, will do so, although Mr. Sanders has said he would, Kim Jong-un knows he must continue to get the American attention. Furthermore, the president seems to have made it clear, according to news reports, that he would not have a summit with Kim Jong-un between now and November. And there are unconfirmed reports that the president's senior staff are getting messages to the North that there may not even be summits if the president is reelected. So it's conversely the U.S. putting pressure on the North. But I think that the kiss of death is for the North Korea to just become invisible, and that's what was happening in the past 2 months. The lack of the testing was, in effect, an invisibility.
Right, and Dr. Pacheco-Pardo, do you think this strategy will work? Do you think the leaders of the US and China will give their full attention, or the level of attention that Kim Jong-un wants, to the North right now with, the spread of this coronavirus and other things going on domestically as well?
I think it is unlikely that in the months to come, much attention is going to be paid to North Korea. We have seen how the US has moved on a little bit. President Trump has moved on to deal with the Taliban, for example, has moved on to try to reach a deal with China, which he says is going to be signed very soon. There's also talks about potential trade negotiations with the European Union, with Japan as well. There are many foreign policy issues catching the attention of the US, plus obviously the most important issue are the elections. So for the next few months, this is all going to be all about domestic politics, and any foreign policy issue is going to be linked to the development in the Democrat primary, but also in the presidential election that will be taking place in November. So in my view, it is going to be difficult for North Korea to actually be top of the agenda in the US. And I would say it's going to be very similar in China. You see how China is also trying to deal with the coronavirus, is trying to improve relations with the US after this phase 1 deal that both countries are about to sign. So I think that over the next few months, we're going to see very little progress unless North Korea is willing to make a major concession, or President Trump decides that he wants to play the North Korea card during the election by maybe signing some sort of phase 1 deal as the November election approaches.
I see. Well, Kim Jong-un said in December last year that the world will see a new strategic weapon in the future. And does this latest launch, Dr. Barry, indicate any progress in that regard?
Literally before going on the air, one of the better analysts, Dr. Ankit Panda, said that the photos that were just released this morning indicated that there were multiple rocket launchers, essentially a kind of a long-range artillery, not really missiles per se. They've done this before, but nonetheless, they've done something. And so it's the beginning of a cycle of attention. And as Dr. Ramon Pacheco-Pardo says, we don't know to what extent North Korea will try to grasp the attention away from the president, from the domestic campaign trail. But I think, as I say, North Korea is in a position where it has to remain high on the agenda of the United States and of the European powers and China and Russia because of its small size, its small power as a state. And this is a difficult year because it's very difficult to make progress when the president does not want to take the chance or risk of a deal falling through. Absolutely under no circumstances would the president want to do that. So I don't see this test really as a threat as much as just sending a mild message that we're here and keep an eye on us.
I see. And Dr. Barry, how do you think Chinese President Xi Jinping would react to this test? Will it get much attention in China?
I think less than we're giving it here in the United States. And I think China has to worry about the recovery of its economy. The global supply chain is taking quite a hit. It's going to be harder to get a lot of our high-tech electronic components over the coming weeks until they ramp up the supply chain. And so I think that's, at the moment, President Xi's main concern. But North Korea has a way of also making sure that China is paying attention to its concerns and needs. But some of that is hidden, and we don't see exactly what goes on, but we may see the ripple impact of that as time unfolds.
See, before we go, from Dr. Pacheco-Pardo, how should South Korea's top office, that's President Moon Jae-in, specifically handle this sudden outburst from the north?
Well, President Moon has always made clear that his policy is to create a sustainable diplomatic process with North Korea, that this process was going to have ups and downs, and clearly we are in a moment where relations between both Koreas, between the US and North Korea, are not good. They are not as bad as they were in 2017, so we have improved since then, but they're not good. We have seen a stall in the diplomatic process. So what I think South Korea should continue to do is to try to press for diplomacy. Because the chances that at some point the US and North Korea will rekindle diplomacy are quite high, probably after the November election. It could be even before, but probably after the November election. But B, also because this is the policy of the president and has the support of a large majority of the South Korean population, mostly most liberals, but many conservatives as well. They think that engagement is the way to go. So I think this is what he should continue to try. And if the process continues, completely collapses at some point, well, South Korea can say that it tried. And it is on North Korea to have made this an unsuccessful process. So I think for the time being, President Moon should continue to press for diplomacy.
I see. Well, thank you very much for your time today, gentlemen. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave our discussion here. It's been a great discussion. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Barry, for joining us from New York, Dr. Pacheco Pardo, all the way from London. And that's where we're going to have to leave it. To our viewers around the world, thank you very much for joining us today. And we'll be back tomorrow at the same time for more global insights from experts around the world. Have a lovely day or evening wherever you are. Bye-bye.
The novel coronaviruses are spreading all over the world. To prevent the virus from spreading further, it's essential to